Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Luke Cohen. Luke is currently playing in the Federal Prospects Hockey League for the Watertown Wolves. This is Luke's first pro season, and as well as playing for the Watertown Wolves this season so far. He has also made 2 appearances for the Macon Mayhem in the Southern Professional Hockey League. Luke has played his junior hockey days in the SPHL Premier, ECHL, the Met JHL, and the WSHL before playing 4 years of NCAA Division III college hockey at Castleton University before turning pro this season. So it's going to be a really fun episode. So welcome to the show, Luke Cohen.
Hey guys, welcome. It's an honor to be on your show today. It's not every day you get to get interviewed and be on a podcast and talk about what you love and goaltending and being a professional hockey player. So it's definitely one of those things I don't take for granted. And I looked at your guest list before, and it's pretty cool to see like guys you've played with or know or looked up to on the same podcast and be able to, follow in their footsteps. Hopefully I do a good job here.
Absolutely. But no problem. You're always welcome on the show, and it's going to be a fun time. Like, who doesn't love talking hockey and who doesn't love talking goaltending?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's my life. I love to talk about hockey and goaltending, and it's, what I want to do my whole life, and to be able to get where I am is a pretty cool accomplishment. So it's been a long road, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. But to start things off, can we get like a little background information on yourself? Like when you started playing hockey, why you started, like what youth hockey was like for you growing up in New York?
So I started playing hockey when I was 7 years old. I don't come necessarily from a hockey family. Both my parents are, my dad's a big motorsports guy. So he was a professional race boat driver, pretty much anything with an engine in it. He can make it go fast. My mom was the athlete, but she played lacrosse and basketball. So anyway, it's kind of a funny story. My dad got tickets from one of his clients to go to an Islanders game. And it's like Michael Pekka and Chris Osgood was in net. And I just remember being like hooked, and I was like, Dad, I want to go ice skating. And a week later I was on ice skates, and for a year or two, I dabbled as a forward. I was pretty bad. But we didn't have any goalies. And at the rink on Long Island where I started skating at Iceworks. So they were like, basically, if you play goalie, you can do hockey 101, hockey 201, the like weekend learn to skate games. You can do all of that for free. So for like a year, not bad. So for like a year and a half, I was just every night of the week I was there. A little bit behind, I guess, the curve. Like I didn't play travel hockey until I was a Pee Wee minor. And I bounced around a little bit. I spent most of my career playing tier 2 for the North Jersey Avalanche. So that was pretty cool. I mean, once I started playing goalie, I was hooked. And then since then, my parents pretty much learned everything about hockey that there is. I mean, my dad's and my mom are probably my two biggest supporters. My dad talks to me every day about hockey. Did you see this clip? Or he's sending me something from some obscure league in Europe. He's like, did you see this goal? What is this thing where the guy takes the puck behind the net? So it was actually kind of funny the other night. He's watching the game. He's like, what is this Michigan thing everybody's doing now? Like, he's like, you need to practice that in warmups. You better not get scored on like that. I was like, well, if I get scored on like that, I'm sure you'll let me know. But they've been my biggest supporters, and playing youth hockey on Long Island was pretty good. I mean, the talent pool, at least for my age, guys got to skate with, where I was lucky. I mean, Jeremy Bracco, Brandon Fortunato, Sonny Milot, they were all guys that were around my age. So any tournament, any summer like hockey league, it was probably the best of the best for coming to play. And you look back and it's kind of cool to grow up with those guys. And I mean, some of them are in the NHL now, and watch them on TV and you're like, wow, I played hockey with them growing up. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. And like, what's it like having like that support system with like your parents, and just that like your dad is a professional like boat racer, and like your mom's also an athlete. So like, what's like just having that support system, like knowing what you're going through.
I think it's really helpful, because when I talk to them, it's not, they didn't necessarily, neither of them played hockey, so they didn't necessarily go through the same like trials and tribulations or overcome the same adversity, but you know, they went through it with another sport. So
yeah,
like, especially when I talk to my mom, she sometimes looks at it and she's like, well, when I was growing up playing lacrosse, it was like this. Or my dad will say, you know, not every like you couldn't control the waves in every race. So he's like, you can't control the other team in every game. You can't control the waves. You can't control where the wind was, but it's like things like that. And it kind of takes you outside of hockey. So for a second, like, even though we're talking about hockey, you're thinking about like the bigger picture. So it's good. And you pick up little things. I mean, I call my parents after every game, and whether I play, you know, well or bad or whatever goes on, they usually have some words of wisdom. I think my dad's been tougher on me than my mom. My mom's always been the supportive one. My dad, there's been plenty of times where he's been like, you know, if I could let you walk home, I would. But all of those things, obviously, you know, he meant with love, and he was just trying to push me to the next level. And since the first day I took my first hockey lesson, till, I mean, today, they're my biggest supporters. They're always, what do you need? What can we do to help? You know, and I don't take any of that for granted, because you're lucky to have two parents that support you and want to do anything that they can to see you get to the next level, I mean, for me, it was get to college, like play junior hockey, be a starter in juniors, get to college, play in college, get to pro. And every step of the way, they've been like, what can we do? How can we help? What is the next thing we can do to help you just get a little bit better?
Yeah, that's unreal. And like being a professional athlete, and like even college juniors, like it's a grind, and like just for them to understand like the grind from their perspectives as well, like that also helps. And just because the grind gets hard, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, but like it does take a toll on your body at some point or another.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And the biggest difference is, you know, I think guys coming from college to play pro, you know, for me, it's a little bit of a learning experience. Like in juniors, you play, I don't know, 50 games, and you play on summer teams, and you go to tournaments. So by the end of the year, you've played 60 games, or if you're lucky as a goalie, like you've played 30 or 40 games throughout the course of the year. But you go to college, and even, I mean, obviously at the Division I level, it's different. They play 30, 40 games. And at D3, we're lucky if we get total 30 games in for a season. So mentally it's much harder, but on your body, even though every game is, you know, you leave it all on the ice every game, the season is shorter, so you get a longer period to recover. Like if you get hurt or something, vice versa, like you might miss a whole season, but you also have 8 months before the next year. But I think the biggest thing that I learned, like playing college hockey, is mentally, especially at the Division III level, like every night you have to be checked into the game, because every game counts. Every game counts every night at every league, but every game really mattered, because if you lost a game, that could be the difference between making playoffs and not. You only played your conference opponents twice, once at home and once on the road. You know, you're lucky when you get to pro hockey. For instance, we played Binghamton 4 times in a row. So there's always, there's tomorrow night to make it better. In college hockey, sometimes there wasn't tomorrow night. But I think the biggest adjustment to pro is the season's long. Practices are harder. Guys are better. You know, you're playing 25, 30-year-olds, like they hit harder. It's their job. So really learning how to take care of your body is the biggest thing for me. It's helped me tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like that's all that really like matters is like what you learn from those experiences, because not every road's the same. Like all routes are different. You're just gonna do whatever you can for you, and then you're just going throughout what you experience and then learning from them. Like they're like when I lose games, like I never say I lose games. I always say I learn from them, because like that's
Yeah,
like you learn from those games no matter what.
yeah, you learn from everything, and I think it's especially as a goalie, like you might lose a game and think you played really really well, but I mean for me it's like any game, any goal I give up, I even it could be a 5-on. I mean, not that we see many 5-on-0s in our career. It could be a 5-on-0, and I still want to stop the puck. And I think the difference is like with guys that I've learned who want to make it to the next level, who are the most successful. Even if it's a 1-0 game and they had a shot, they still they hit 3 posts. Like if you look at NHL guys after they get, they're lucky, they celebrate the team and they're not about themselves, but they're also they know like I want to get better. Like that shutout wasn't perfect, or yeah, we won the game 5-3, but it should have been 5-1. Like I think, and especially my goalie partners here that I've had this year, everybody's striving to be just a little bit better. Like, okay, we won the game, but how tomorrow night can I be better than I was tonight? I didn't like like we were just talking about it today, like, oh, our post integration isn't great. Like, how can we make it a little bit better so next time we play this team, like it's just smooth.
Yeah, absolutely. And like there's always something to learn from like that. And like you just keep working, keep getting better every day. And like one of the days, like you're gonna be like, dang, like this feels a lot better than it did the day before, or stuff like that. And you're gonna just work your way off that and like keep that momentum going.
Yeah, some days it all clicks, and especially like the days that it doesn't click, it's good to know like you have good practice habits and you've practiced things a million times, because there's been games this year I felt so nervous and had so much anxiety and played really well. And then there's been games I've been so calm and the first shot of the game goes in and you're like, okay, well, I got to reset because my body knows what I'm doing, but I got to just take it step by step.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this season before we get into like juniors and college and all that. So like you've been in and out of Watertown quite a bit this year. So like what's it been like for this season for your first year pro and just being with Watertown, playing in, I think your records on Elite Prospects says you're 3-2 and like with 18 games played or something like that.
Yeah. So this season has been it actually started way before Watertown. So I signed with Watertown after I graduated from college, and I was fortunate enough to get an invite to go to an AHL training camp. So I was there for a while. Then they sent me to a coast team, who's obviously their spots were already full because it was late, and that's how I ended up in Macon. And I love the experience there, but there were 3 goalies, and I was the youngest one with the least amount of pro experience. So they were like, go to Watertown, improve, and we'll see where the future takes us. And then I got to Watertown, and I've been here for a while, and I love it. I wouldn't want to play any place else. Like since the first day I walked in, from the guys introducing you in the locker room to Clarky and Curtis, our equipment guy, and all the boys in the room, like it's a big family. Like even some of the guys that aren't here right now that are called up that were here when I was here in the beginning, like we still talk every day, like Snapchat, we send like videos to each other, goaltending, or he's from Boston, so I send him all the Boston stuff, he sends me all in New York, so we kind of go back and forth which place is better. But it's like everybody here has a good relationship. I can't say that there's one guy that hasn't come through the doors here that everybody bonds to, and if he doesn't bond with the group, which would be extremely hard to do here, then sadly they move on. If they don't want to be here, it's obvious, but I think every guy that puts on a Wolves uniform on any given night wants to be here and would do anything for the 20 guys in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't know that you started out at an AHL camp. So like, what was it like going into an AHL training camp right out of college, and just like, even though like it didn't go as well as you wanted, and like you got sent to the coast and then the SB and all that, like what experiences did you take from playing at the AHL level?
I think I knew coming out of college, like I knew that I wasn't going to end up signing in the A. Like I knew that their roster was full and they just needed a guy for camp. And I was there with another guy who's on PTO. So we're kind of filling, not filling space, but the NHL guys hadn't assigned their goalies down to camp yet. I think they were still trying to figure out if there was going to be a taxi squad and what was going on. But, I think it was some of my best hockey because I was able to, I wasn't worried about making the team. I was just, if I had made the team, it would have been it would have been like winning the Mega Millions. I don't think it wasn't really a possibility. So it never crossed my mind, but it was just like, you take every moment in and you're like, wow, like not a lot of guys get to say, especially that play D3, get to be like, well, I went to an NHL or an AHL training camp and I dressed for an AHL preseason game. So it was pretty surreal. And it's to work with those guys at that level and see the dedication and, you know, how dedicated they are to their craft, to their workouts, to drills on the ice. It's unbelievable. The speed, like how they think of the game, working with, you know, NHL caliber goalie coaches every day. And so, okay, well, how do I do this? Well, if I come off the post like this, is it better than coming off the post like that? It was really a learning experience for me. And it was one of those things, like, I'll look back for the rest of my hockey career and be like, wow, I did it. And I was there for 10, 12 days and just soaked everything up. I mean, there's no better experience to start off playing pro hockey than being in that environment. And you know, I don't take a second of that for granted, because it was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Yeah, it's like, how did that opportunity come about? Like, I know, like, you were like another goal was on PTO, so you're just like filling spots, but like, how did that opportunity come up to go to the AHL training camp?
So I knew somebody within the organization, and they basically reached out to me and were like, would you be willing to fill in? We don't know how long it's going to be. It could be 1 day, it could be 10 days, it could be the rest of the year. We don't know, but can you pack your stuff and show up tomorrow, get a COVID test, and head to the rink? So the general manager, the assistant general manager, actually reached out to me, which was really cool. Talked to an NHL assistant GM. And he's like, hey, is this something you'd be willing to do? And I was like, of course. Like, who wouldn't?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I was like, I'm free. Sure. So, I mean, it was unbelievable. So it just it was one of those things where it was like, hey, do you think you can do this too? And I was like talking to my dad, joking around about it. Like, hey, do you think you would be willing to do this? And I was like, yeah, I mean, of course. Like, if it happens, yeah. And then an hour later, it was like, hey, can you be here tomorrow? And then can you be at the rink tomorrow night? Like, get your physical, you're practicing Sunday.
Yeah, that's a crazy turn of events, but nothing. But you're not complaining. You'd cancel any of your plans to go up to.
Oh yeah, I canceled everything. I called my trainer. I was like, hey, I love you, but I can't make it tomorrow. He's like, okay, are you coming back? I said, I don't know, maybe. It's like it was an unbelievable experience, and the guys that were there, like, you can see the teams that are successful, and I think I started to see it there. Obviously, I wasn't on the team, but they support each other as like a brotherhood. And even though it was training camp and guys are in and out, and guys are getting assigned to the coast or back up to the NHL or coming down, like, it's a brotherhood. And I think the teams that are the most successful, everybody in the locker room is on the, you know, pulling the same rope, going in the same direction, just looking to get better every day. And there's no groups, there's no infighting. Everybody's there. It's 20 guys, and it's like one unit moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got into an AHL preseason as a backup, right?
Yeah, I did. How
was that?
Man, you know, it's way different than college. I mean, it's just, we played and, you know, to warm up or to see even at a preseason, like, what the dedication, how serious, like, it is. Like, you watch 24/7, like, growing up, and, you know, you see how dedicated they are. But for like pro hockey to know, like, okay, this is what I have to do to warm up every day. Like, I learned a lot there that's followed me through my pro career and will follow me through my pro career. Cause it's like, every day you warm up, every day you're honing your craft. Like, you get to the rink 2 hours early, you're warming up, you're stretching, you're doing what needs to be done so that the second you step on the ice, you're ready to go. And I think you see it even in a preseason game. Like, yeah, I think there was maybe more of a fun atmosphere in the air. Guys were like probably a little bit laid back because it's the first preseason game, and they were happy to get back to hockey. Some guys hadn't played because of the COVID season. So I think maybe it was a little more relaxed, but you could definitely see, like, when the puck dropped, it was business. Like, there were no friends, even guys who had played on the other team, like, they were out there to do their job. And I think your first pro experience, that being my first pro experience, everything I learned there, I took, like, the warm up we did, just how to prepare for a game. You take those things and you're like, okay, this is what it takes to get to the next level. I have to do that every single day. It might be a year, it might be 2 years, it might be 4 years to get to the next level. You just have to hone your craft every single day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the valuable experience you learned from that, like you take it on to the when you went to the ECHL camp, then the SP, and now with the Watertown Wolves. But like you did play 2 games with the Macon Mayhem in the SB this year. So like what were those first two SPHL games like,
Uh,
especially coming from the Fed?
so I actually didn't start. I started in Macon, so I hadn't actually been to the Fed yet. So I've played pretty much everywhere this year, but it was a great way to get to break into pro hockey. And you know, the games probably didn't go as well as I had anticipated. But you I look back and there's things you take. Like I don't think I was necessarily 100% ready to take all of the minutes at that level. Like I was there and I was competing, but I was a little bit of a step behind. Like I knew that there were things that I had to get better on. And there's a huge jump, especially as a goalie, from D3 to D1, from D1 to pro, from the SB to the coast, like from the Fed to the SB. Like there's guys are faster. The decisions they make are quicker. And I think the biggest thing that I learned there is the mistakes you make, they capitalize on. Like you might be able to get away with, say, 2 mistakes a game in the Federal League and they capitalize on 1. But, when you get to the next level, if you make 2 mistakes, they might capitalize on both. If you make any mistakes in the coast or the AHL or the NHL, it's a virtual guarantee it's going in the back of the net. So like the biggest thing that I learned is like, you need to limit the amount of mistakes you make because guys get better at capitalizing on your mistakes. A bad rebound is in the back of your net, a mishandled puck behind the net, a bad read on a breakaway. Those are all things that they're going to capitalize on. And I learned that. And I think it's helped me here because I know even the games that I play and I play well, like the mistakes I make, I might get lucky, but I know if I take the jump to the next level, I'm not going to get as lucky.
Yeah, and like every single millisecond counts, especially when you go up the levels. Like you make one mistake, like you said, get behind the play, it's probably ending up in the back of your net. And like just every single detail like really does matter at the pro level. And like just the margin of error is so small.
Yeah, like a bad rebound, even though you think like, okay, it kicked off my pad, I didn't get with my stick. Okay, but that puck going into the corner instead of in the netting is a huge difference. Like that one mistake, even though you think, okay, it's insignificant, could be another 3 shots on net. And I went to school for math and economics. So the way I look at it is if you give up another 10 shots a game, chances are that's another goal. The best goalies in the league are, above 900 save percentage. But even then, that's 9 out of 10 shots. So if you give up an extra shot here and there, eventually it might not add up in that game, but it could be the next game or the game after where a 3-2 game becomes a 4-2 game because of a mistake that you made 2 games ago. So I'm a big, maybe I'm a big believer in analytics. I try not to think about it when I'm playing, but outside of hockey, you look at it that way. Like, a mistake might not hurt today, but it'll hurt tomorrow. It all adds up. So those little things that you can do every day in practice to make the mistakes not disappear, because we're human, we're still going to make mistakes, but decreasing the amount of mistakes you make throughout a game makes a whole world of difference when you're playing 60-game season.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say like that's pretty much one of the biggest things you learned throughout your rookie season, just like as well as like the mindset part of the game?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the mindset. Like you have to be, it's different when you're in college. Like it's a job when you're in college, but you're also you're in college to get an education. Like there's other things going on. When you turn pro, this is it. A couple bad games in a row, that could be the difference between playing in the NHL and the AHL. It could be the difference at our level between playing and not playing. So you have to be mentally prepared every day, and you have to work every day in practice to get better, to limit your mistakes. And not every day is perfect, but those are like the biggest things I learned is, every day you don't want to, like my goal every day in practice, I don't want to give up a bad goal. I know where my weaknesses are. So I'm harder on myself if I give up a goal in practice that I gave up the last game, or I give up a goal that I think I should stop, then I'm hard on myself because I know like that can't happen. It can't happen in practice. It can't happen in a game. So it's taxing, but if you work towards your goal and you know why you're doing it, it's rewarding. It's rewarding to be like, okay, well, last week I didn't make that save on that guy on this play, but this week I did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, say you give up a bad goal, like how do you change like that mindset from like, oh, I gave up a bad goal and like all like the negativity that flows in your mind, and then switch that on to like a positive like mindset and like positive attitude throughout, and like try to like do everything you can to stop the next puck.
So I think it's a routine for me, and I think a lot of guys you watch in the NHL, like a lot of the goalies that we watch on TV every night, after they get scored on, they do the exact same thing every single time. I think a lot of those guys, obviously they're fortunate. They look up at the jumbotron, they see the play, they say, okay, we're all goalies at a high level. We can look at it and say, okay, well, okay, that pass went there. My head was late. I'm out of position, or I should have had a better read. But for the most part, at this level, I kind of just think through the play really quickly. Okay, what could I have done better? All right, he beat me low blocker. Probably I could have taken half a second to hold it. I could have come forward with my blocker. Okay, next time he does that shot, that's what I'm going to do. You make a little mental adjustment. For me, I take a little drink of water, I put my helmet back down, and then it's back to the game. It's back to the next shot. I mean, if you focused on the bad, you would probably crumble in net. I mean, it happens sometimes. You give up a really bad goal and you think about it for a long time on the bus home or something, but in the game, I live by the mantra, one shot, one save. So that's it. Like, I'm one shot, one save. And if it goes in, like, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. You're on to the next shot and the next save. So there's always time to review after the fact. But in a game, you can't really, it's so fast. Like, you can't really think about it. So you just have your little routine, you get back in the game, and then you're on to the next play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I do, kind of just like, I just tell myself like, stay relaxed. Cause like when goals get going, like sometimes you get like, oh, you overreact and all that. And like, just stay relaxed, and next puck, next shot, like that, like that's your next job, is like the next puck, just gotta stop it. Like, that's like some of my like anchor techniques. Do you have like any anchor techniques that you use, like what you say, like, or is it just like one shot, one save, like you just said?
So I probably talk to myself the whole game. If you might be up for the whole game, I'm probably either singing along to the background music. I catch myself bopping my head along sometimes, or talking to my glove. But I have a couple things. So like on the back of my helmet, I have a couple like slogans that are pretty dear to me. So like this summer, I was working with a sports psychologist, and he basically said, what's the biggest thing for you this summer? And I said, training over the summer, especially coming out of COVID, there wasn't the ice that there used to be. You couldn't skate every day. It just wasn't a possibility anymore. So he said, what's the biggest thing for you? And for me, it was movement matters. And like, to me, that meant that everything I did mattered. From waking up in the morning, like what my plan was for the day, what my movement for the day was. And we kind of broke it down to like, okay, movement matters as a whole, to movement matters when you're exercising, training for hockey, going to yoga, like everything that you do matters. So sometimes in the net, I'll be saying movement matters, but for the most part, if puck's coming down, it's one shot, one save, just repeat it 1,000 times during the game, and kind of just, get in the zone. Sometimes if I'm fighting the puck a little bit, I'll be like, be a wall. Just little things, like you just think of them and you're like, okay, I'm just going to say it, and they kind of build in your mind. But probably I would say the most of the time, I'm either saying movement matters or one shot, one save, just focusing on the play. That's kind of my mantra.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like you say something and like your mind like reacts to it, and like the next thing you know, like you're a lot more calmer, and you're a wall, and like you're not fighting the puck as much, and like it's crazy how much your mind actually works, and how much it actually like improves your game when you do think about it.
Yeah, I think self-talk is probably the biggest, it's probably one of the biggest things that can change the outcome of the game, and is one of the most helpful. Being positive obviously helps, thinking, like, knowing, being confident, but there's a fine line between being confident and being cocky. And I think pretty much every athlete kind of toes the line between, you don't want to be cocky, but you also need to be confident to play. But I think self-talk helps tremendously, because it's one of those things, like, you just talk to yourself and you're calm and you've done it a million times, that it just becomes natural. Like, you just start saying it and it just becomes natural. And it's one of those things, like, I've even started to institutionalize it in practice, and have the same self-talk in practice. Like with the drill, like, not every drill is designed for a goalie. Like, there are drills that we do in practice that are
the
for
flow drills.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing 3-on-0s for the forwards so they can get touches. Like you're doing 5-on-0 breakouts for the forwards. So not every drill is goalie specific. Not every game you play is goalie specific, but in those situations, I've learned like that's where my self-talk is crucial, because those are the games I want to be better at. Like in college, we used to play. Everybody has a different name for it. We used to call it chicken parm, but it's bubble hockey, where you put the 2 nets on the circle at center ice. You play 3-on-3, and was for forever. I just struggled. Like you're getting lit up by one-timers and backdoor passes and block shots off your forward. You're trying to get the guy in the middle and he passes it back. So that's where I kind of started to institutionalize, like, okay, movement matters. Like, what can I do here to just make the save? And I like noticed as I was saying those things, I was getting better at the game, and then I was winning the game. And then I wasn't cleaning the bus after a road trip, and I was like, my team won. I don't have to clean the bus. So you get the little victories out of it. But then I noticed, like, I was like, okay, this works. So whenever I'm struggling in practice, or whenever it's a drill that I'm not necessarily thrilled with, I mean, I love every drill. I love being on the ice, but there's not every drill is goalie perfect. That's when I'm most doing my self-talk to be like, okay, how can I get the most out of this drill so that in a game, if I face a 3-on-0, I'm going to make the save.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you there. And like, I want to go on to like Watertown a little bit here as well. Like, you get your first pro win, like your league prospect says you're 3-2. It's like, what was it like getting that first professional win out of the way?
It's, you dream, since I was a kid, I wanted to play pro hockey, and I wanted to play college hockey. When I got to college, it's like, okay, there was a long road in college for me, but I ended up getting here, and I was like, okay, to get that first start, and I'd backed up a couple games before then, and you get the first start in Delaware, and to bring it home with the guys was an unbelievable experience. Everybody played well. Everybody was blocking shots. Guys had to drop the gloves that don't normally drop the gloves to protect other teammates. We scored when we should have scored. It was a closer game than I think maybe we would have, what you would have liked. It was touch and go there for a point, but when the guys needed to come through, they came through, and I can't thank them enough. And, after the game, to come in the locker room and you get the hard hat and the game puck, and, you dream of that every single day. And it's one of those things I'll take with me forever. I have, the 2 pucks on my wall, my first college win and my first pro win. And I think those are things like I'll have those pucks on my desk forever because they mean so much to me. And it's a lifetime of work that paid off to get that win. And it's, I can't thank the boys enough, like, for bringing it home. Like you think during the game, you're like, okay, like, well, that block shot was like pretty cool. But then after the game, you're like, I could have saved the game right there. So, it's a team game, and I'll be forever happy. Like my first pro win was in a Watertown Wolves uniform, and there wasn't any other group of guys that I would have wanted to bring it home with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And just like, you appreciate those blocks when everyone's putting their body in the way and like putting their bodies on the line, like boys dropping the gloves to protect teammates. Like, that's what it's all about. Like like we've been talking about, coming together as a team and like building on that chemistry and that culture that Watertown wants. Like that's where like it all starts from the top to the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, Clarkey, our coach, Brent Clark, like, I think he sets the tone with us. And it's one of those things where I don't think there's any guy in our locker room from, one side to the other that's not willing to go the extra mile. I mean, I think every guy in our locker room is willing to block a shot. I mean, obviously the goalies are willing to block shots, but I think even the goalies, like, we're willing to do whatever it takes to win the game. And I think the guys on our team are willing to do whatever it takes, whether it's playing through injury, playing through, blocking a shot, not being able to take your foot out of your skate for the whole game, or getting there. The guys are willing to do whatever it takes to win a game. And I think that's why we're so successful, is because you look around the locker room and you know that every single guy in the lineup tonight is going to do the same thing that you're going to do. And if you're not having, the perfect game, or you make a mistake, they're going to be there to pick you up. They're not going to tear you down. And I think that's what makes it really special, is like our culture is so good that everybody supports everybody. And when guys are struggling, guys don't pile on their struggle. They're there to talk, and they're there to say, hey man, like, that's not your fault. Like, this is what I saw. What did you see? How can we change what we did so we can make the play better? What did you see on that goal? Well, I saw this. Okay, well, next time take this guy, or well, I did this because he did that. Okay, well, how can we sort that situation out so next time that doesn't happen? I don't think you get that in a lot of places.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all that matters, just that the team's sticking up for each other and like they're all coming together as one. Like that's what you really hope for and everything. So like what's it like you guys have been in like big rivalry games between like Binghamton, like four games back to back to back to back. So like what's it like playing in those rivalry games, especially against Binghamton since they're one of your closest rivals?
So Binghamton and Danbury are probably our closest, they're our rivals. Danbury's in second place. They're hot on our tail. We go back and forth with them. And Binghamton, every team gets better every week, every day, every practice. So the games get harder and harder. And as the playoffs get closer and closer, they mean more and more. So it's like playing in the playoffs in February. We're going to play them and there's rivalries and guys, they remember, if something happens the game before, they're going to remember. So it's tough, but as a goalie, I look at it, you can't take Friday and say Friday is going to be the same as Sunday. So for me, I just kind of focus on, okay, we're playing 4 times in a row, but every game is different. So I don't really look at it as like a series. I look at it as, okay, if I play Friday night, the Friday night game could be completely different than the Sunday night game. Especially in this league, there's times that you'll win 7-1 and there's times the game will be 8-7 and there's times it'll be 4-2 or like last night it was 4-3 in overtime. So it's an individual game within the series. I think they're our biggest rival. I think the tensions are definitely high. I mean, guys are going the extra mile to chirp and say things, and you live for that. And I'm happy that we're successful against them and the boys are successful against them. But as a goalie, I think you look at it differently. Like I look at every game, it's every individual game is different. You can't, their ice is different than our ice. It's bigger. They might do something different at home. The boards are different. You can't focus on, well, we play them 3 times in a row. We just focus on Friday night. There's a game at 7:30 and that's what my focus is for the week. And when that game's over, then it's 7:30 Saturday night. That's my focus. But I think if you tuned into the series for the whole week, at least for me, my anxiety would be through the roof. I probably wouldn't sleep. I'd just be staring at the wall going, oh, I got a game.
One game at a time, one game. Every single game is different, no matter what, especially since rivalries are so close and everything, like one game can go your way, the next night could completely go a different way.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the same thing, like one shot, one save. Like it's one game, it's one shot. I mean, it's the same guys playing for the most part every night, but one of our guys might have 4 goals on Friday night and not have a point on Saturday. And it could be vice versa for the other team. I mean, I always hope that it's us never having a pointless night.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate that we have, I think, very few, if any, pointless nights. But you really you got to focus on the shots and the saves and the big picture. It comes together at the end, but you can't focus on the big picture unless you do your job. And I think that's the thing here is if everybody does their job, one shift, one shot, one save, one hit, one block, like then all of those things add up. And on Sunday night, you look back and you have your weekend sweep and then you can cherish like, oh, man, that rivalry is fun. But I think the deep breath and soaking in the rivalry doesn't really come until after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all. The rivalries are big. Like you got to love those games, like everything. Like those games are the most fun to play in. Like I would believe in just being able to, cause like all the chirps are that much better. And like, you're fighting for, especially like Watertown Watertown Danbury, like 1-2, like you're fighting for that first place. Like that's when the intensity goes through the roof.
Yeah. I think that's that's probably the one thing you miss as a goalie is you don't really get to chirp anybody, but the days you're backing up, you definitely hear it. But it's fun. I mean, those games it's the playoffs. I mean, everybody on both sides is going the extra mile to get 3 points, and that going into the game that they're going to do anything it takes to win. And especially if you win the game before, it leaves a better taste, or you lose the game before, either way it goes, it leaves a better taste in your mouth. So, as a goalie, you're always looking to improve. And as a player, or if you lose as a team, it's you're going to come out a little bit harder. But when you win, you know that. So like, okay, they're going to come out that first shift. They're going to be pushing a little bit harder, and you have to respond and match it. And I think we definitely do that well as a team. Like, we know that when we win, we know they're going to come a little bit angrier the next game, and we kind of push the tempo to make it our game and to just say like, hey, like, you're going to have to play Watertown Wolves hockey tonight. And I think that's every night we play our brand of hockey, and we don't adjust for other teams. We make them adjust for us. Like, we're going to play how we play, and that's what makes us successful every night. You're getting the same team, and it's just, it gets better and better every night. And the way we play our brand, it's just an unbelievable experience to be on the winning side of it. When the ball is rolling and the boys are having fun, as a lot of the guys say, like, I don't think there's anybody that's having as much fun on the bench as us when we're in a good situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into your junior and college career a little bit here, like, what was like your first like pro moment where you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Probably we've had a couple this year that were special. I think probably my first profile, just kind of sitting there, guys dragging you off or hitting you. You're like, okay, well, that's guy hits a little bit harder, or, guys going to the net. I think it's just probably all of those things combined in games. You're kind of like, wow, this is the pace. But I think my biggest moment was just where I was like, wow, this is pro hockey, was the speed and the compete. Like, I remember one of my first practices in pro, we were doing like one of those shootout games where like you collect the puck at the red line or the blue line and you come in and it's like 9 puck. And I remember like you're younger and you put the puck down and you send it down the ice and you're like, oh, cool, I get like 30 seconds off. I might have gone to do something similar than that. And my stick ended up in 2 pieces. And I just knew from that point right there, I was like, there's a compete level from everybody. That's just, it's different. Like, that guy wasn't going to let me send the puck down the ice. He was going to score a goal. And he knew that I was trying to send the puck down the ice, and he was willing to beat me at that game. And obviously I put the puck down and played with a broken stick for a little bit. But I was like, wow, that's a compete level that I had never seen before. And it, inside me, that upped my compete level, because I was like, well, if he's going to do that, I'm not going to put him in that situation. I'll be quicker than him next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that compete level, like once you're there, like you learn like everyone's fighting for their jobs, because not every day is guaranteed. Like, tomorrow's not guaranteed. So you just gotta do whatever you can, because you have one bad practice and you're gone the next day. Like, you just gotta do whatever you can to stay.
Yeah, you just do whatever you can to be a little bit better and play a little bit better and stay in the lineup and do what you can. And I think that's, every day I try to raise my compete level. And obviously there's days it's not, you're 100% is always not the same, but I strive to compete harder than anybody else and make every save that I can in practice every day. And those things, they add up at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. What was you recently got into your first pro fight, right?
In Carolina, I did.
How was that?
So I'm sure you've seen the clip. A bunch of people have seen it. It was one of those things, like it just kind of happened. The game wasn't going our way. I thought, watching what was happening, I got put in the game in relief, and the thought had never crossed my mind that I might be in that situation. But I'm one of those guys, like I pride myself on being a great teammate, and I'm willing to do anything for the boys on and off the ice to make us successful, or if somebody needs to get picked up or go grocery shop, whatever the case may be. I always want to be the guy that's there to help, not the guy that's causing a problem. And I'd made a save, and one of our defensemen went to make a hip check on a guy who was 6'7", and he turned around and he baseball swung him. And I don't take that lightly. Like, that's a guy who's got a foot on a guy he's going after for a pretty clean hit. And, everybody kind of grabbed a partner, and I tried to get involved, and I ended up having to do like what I had to do for the team, but I wasn't going to let them take liberties on our players. And I was not going to let another guy not get involved. I mean, everybody was getting involved, and I'm going to stand up for the guys that wear the blue, or we were wearing white. I think we were wearing white that night, but I'm going to stand up for the guys on my team, just like they would stand up for me in that situation. And I just thought what happened there was there was no need for him to do what he did. And, I tried to grab who did it, and we have obviously guys on our team that stepped up, and they can throw much, much better than I can. And, once it boiled down to it, the other goalie had come over and I'm sure if he came on, he'd have a different side of the story, but I kind of thought, he crossed the red line. And for me, I thought, well, he must want something if he crossed the red line. And I went over and I asked him, and he obliged, and we did what we had to do.
Yeah, and just sticking up for teammates, that's all like what it comes down to is just sticking up for the boys, especially when things aren't going as well as you guys hope. Like, you just got to do whatever you can to help the boys out.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously I wanted to play. You come in relief, and you want to help the boys bring the win home and do whatever you can to change the momentum. But I think it was one of those nights I noticed that was the momentum that was going to change the game for us. It just happened to be one of those games where that's what we needed. And, from that point on, we won the weekend. We didn't win that game on Saturday, but we came really close at the end to coming back. I mean, we stormed back pretty fast, and we won on Sunday. But it was one of those things where that brought us a little bit closer, and it was the push that we needed in the right direction. And, being a goalie, it's not one of those things you think about, like, oh, I'm going to be the guy to go out there and change the momentum of the game. I mean, you do it with a big save or a huge penalty kill or something like that. But, that's what the boys needed that night from everybody. And I think that's what makes Watertown special, is everybody's on the same page. When that's what we needed, everybody was willing to go just a little bit further to make sure that they could do whatever it took to get the win for the guys. It didn't matter goalie, forward, D, coach, everybody was on the same page. We're going to do whatever it takes to get this win. And if this is what it is tonight, then this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go on to your junior career a little bit here. So you started out playing juniors in 2012 with New York Apple Corps. And the first few years you spent a lot of time moving around to Connecticut, New York, Connecticut, in the Met J, but all the way up until Lake Tahoe, where you got a really good opportunity and played 23 games there. It's what was those first couple years of junior hockey?
So my first year of junior hockey, I was a junior in high school, and our coach at school was a coach at Apple Corps, and he basically was like, hey, I don't think that you should go back and play your U18 year. Why don't you come? You're probably not going to play a ton, but it'll be a great learning experience. It'll help you at the prep school level. I was like, okay. And I didn't come from a hockey family. So we didn't know, that was okay, it's the next level. We didn't know, maybe it would have been better to play U18 or play my major year. I probably would have been a midget major, play my overage year in midget or play U18 AAA or AA and play more. We didn't know. If I could go back and change it, I probably wouldn't, but I would definitely take a look at other options. So my first year, I didn't play much. I was in high school. I was kind of just learning. Okay, I get to practice every day. I mean, you go from practicing twice a week to practicing 3 nights a week and playing 60 games. The season's longer. You're playing with guys who are 20. It was a great learning experience. And then the next year, I ended up playing for the Royals for a while, which I really liked. They're another Long Island team, and it was my first time besides playing for Apple Corps, it was my first time in a long time to play close to my house, and practices were 20 minutes away, and I didn't really have to drive, and other things were going. You get your license. It was the first time I ever got to drive to a hockey practice by myself. I can remember driving to the rink and think, whoa, I drove here. And so the biggest thing that I take from that time is I was at a practice in Connecticut with my former goalie coach. And I had no idea this guy had been watching practice. And one of the things I take from the guy I worked for over the summer, who I've gone to his camps my whole life, Mitch Cohen, is you never know who's watching. I mean, he must have said it to me 10,000 times. You never know who's watching. You never know who's in the building, especially, if you could say one thing to kids these days, you never know who's watching Live Barn. You never know what coach says, hey, you coach that U18 team. I'm going to look in at practice today. I'm just going to look. I got 10 minutes on my computer. We all watch hockey, or you never know who's watching. So an owner of a junior team happened to be watching, and I got undressed. I had no idea. He came outside, and I got off my hockey bag, and I shook his hand, and I was like, hey, it's nice to meet you. He's like, what's your plan? I said, oh, I'm playing for the Royals right now. I think we were on a little bit of a break. And he's like, you should come out and practice for I own a junior team. Like, come out and practice for my team. And I was like, okay. And I didn't have any of, looking back, I didn't have any of his contact information. I knew his name and I knew what team. I figured out from the rink that we were at what team it was. And I told my dad, and he's like, you didn't get this guy's phone number? And I was like, Dad, I'm 17. I don't think like that. And he's like, okay. So within like 5 minutes, he had the guy's phone. I don't know how he found it. He found the guy's phone number. He's like, I know. So I called him and he was like, yeah, I own this team. Come out. It's at the junior A level. It was when SPHL premiere. It was the first year that they had changed over from the EJ. And he brought me out and he liked what he saw. And he said, hey, listen, I have 2 Division I goalies here now. One of them is going to age out during the season. We want to keep you around. We want you to be here. You're young. I want you to be here for, your whole junior career. Play for one organization. We'll do whatever it takes to, if you want to go to prep school and finish your senior year and come back, that's fine. You'll always have a spot here. Unfortunately, towards the end of the season, he passed away. So things kind of took a different turn. I was able to come back the next year and play there, but it wasn't the same. But he gave me my first shot at junior hockey at that level and playing against Division I guys, Division III guys. And, I'll forever be thankful for him for doing that. And, had he not passed away, things might have turned out differently. But I think the adversity that I overcame through playing juniors really helped me get to college, get to where I was. I played on a lot of teams. I met a lot of guys. It's part of the game. It's part of juniors. You kind of just get used to it. Obviously help now, like being able to move or find find new things in a different area. You go somewhere, you're like, okay, I need to find a place to eat, a place to shop, a place to get my dry cleaning done. You learn different things along the way. So it was good. And finally, when I went out to Tahoe my last year, I was able to play a bunch and, at the end of the season, split time with a guy who plays pro overseas now and learn a lot. And, I wouldn't change anything because I always wanted to play college hockey and it got me to the spot to play college hockey.
Yeah. And like you faced a ton of adversity throughout those couple of years before getting to Lake Tahoe, and like you learn a lot. So then you go into Lake Tahoe where you get to play in 23 games. Like what's that experience like, and just getting your shot at junior hockey and playing 23 games?
So besides for playing in Watertown, it was probably the most be the second most fun I've ever had playing hockey. For anybody who's been to Tahoe, it's a beautiful place, and we were pretty lucky to be able to play out there and live in South Lake Tahoe, a place where people go to resort and ski.
The views must be sick.
Yeah, the rink, you could see the water and the mountains, and it snowed, and the travel was long. So you really it was like this league. Like, I'm a big believer that the longer the travel, the tighter the team gets, because we were on the road for 20 hours and sometimes there'd be no service or your phone would die. So you play cards or you learn everything about your teammates. So, it was definitely fun. I wish, there were things that I do now in practice I wish I had done then, but it's, it was a great way to play my final year of junior hockey. And my thought going into that situation was, either way, whether I play college hockey or not, I wanted to have fun. I was like, I just want to have fun. And that seemed like going to California. I'd never been there, playing in South Lake Tahoe, the travel, the coach, it just seemed, there were a couple guys from New York that I knew. So it was just fun.
Yeah. And that's what it all comes down to. When you do have close knit team like that, you're just having fun. You just get back to the basics. Just I just want to go out there, have fun, and just see how I do against these guys. And just once you dial it down to that, having fun, everything just goes a lot more smoother than when you're overthinking about everything, just having just overthinking about everything, just being oh, this and that. Everything would just be a lot more smoother if you just go out there and have fun.
Yeah. So it was definitely, So, we had a ton of fun. We had a ton of fun out there. And I think, there's still memories I have with the guys out there. I'm sure they have the same ones. And you're just wow, for the 9 or 10 months we were out there, probably 9 months, we just had we just a blast. Every day was just fun. And when it came to an end, I was sad. I didn't, you played junior hockey for so long and you get to, live it up, but I wouldn't have changed my last year for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go on to college hockey after your junior career comes to an end and you go into Castleton University. It's like, what was it that made Castleton your school, and like what made it like pop out to you among the other schools that you probably applied for?
So I was talking to a couple schools near the end of my junior career, and the coach at Castleton played with my junior coach, and they were roommates together. They played Division III together. So when he called me, he's like, "Listen, I know he's a good guy. He's going to be straightforward and honest with you about everything. You could go somewhere else. You might play a little bit more. You might play a little bit less." He said, "But I don't know those coaches. I don't know them personally. He's like, I know if I call Coach Salingo on the phone, he's gonna give me the straight, hey, he needs to work harder. Hey, he stinks. Hey, he's playing lights out." So that's kind of what pushed me to go to Castleton. So that's where I made that decision. I was like, okay, seems like a good fit. I looked at the school online. Vermont's a beautiful area. So I was like, this is for me.
Yeah, and like that's sometimes all you need is like no one's gonna sugarcoat you. Like you're just gonna give it up straight up, be honest. Like that's like as an elite athlete, like I think that's what you want. Like just be told like the honest truth, even though it could hurt like what they're saying about you. But I'd rather have complete honesty than just sugarcoat.
Yeah, sometimes the honest truth hurts, but it's what you need. And I'd rather play for a coach. And if I coached, I'd rather be the coach that was honest with my players and said, "Hey, listen, this is what I expect of you. This is what you're giving me." And sometimes it's not what you think. Sometimes your coach will call you in and give you the honest truth, and you're like, "Wow, I didn't expect that. I guess I'm doing well," and that's a little confidence boost. But on the other hand, sometimes you sit down and you hear the hard truth, and you're like, "Okay, you could take it one of two ways. You could either take it in and say, I hate this guy. I never want to play here again," or you can say, "Okay, well, he's the coach for a reason. He sees this. How do I get better at this?" And I mean, I definitely took those things in college. There were things I wasn't good at. And, he would say, "Okay, you need to work on this." And I would work on that. And then I would get better at that. And he'd say, "Well, I think this." And I would work on the next thing. And I would just check the boxes until I thought I had done everything that I could have.
Yeah, absolutely. So like going throughout, like looking back at your college career, you played in seven games, I believe, all 4 years. Like what was your 4 years at Castleton like, and just learning from everything, especially like even though you're not playing games as much as you'd like, but like you learned stuff from just being at that level and just competing at practice.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot. I learned I learned some things that probably, I shouldn't have had to learn, not in a bad way, just how to overcome adversity. I mean, we had a great group of guys. I talk to my roommates all the time still from school. I think, there's guys that I'm going to play against in this league that you played with at school, and it'd be fun to play against them. But, I think that there were opportunities for me to improve that I didn't take in my first 2 years that I finally took in my junior year, and I got a little bit better. I didn't really end up getting along with our coach, and I think he would say the same thing. Not because I wasn't playing. I always supported the guys that were playing. I just thought that there were situations that I was in that just as a player, I deserved a better look that I didn't get. And I think the biggest thing that I learned, like we talked about, sometimes the hard truth. I think the hard truth was I should have spoken up earlier. And by no means do I ever want to sound like I was going against the other goal. I wasn't. When they played well and they were playing lights out, I want them to play. If you're, if you're playing and the ball's in your court, then I expect you to play every single game, and I'll be there when I need to play, and vice versa. I want you to support. I want to know that you're supporting me. If I'm on a 5-game heater and we're winning every game, then I want the same from you. But, I expect the same of myself when, like here, when Boomer's playing well, I want him to play every game because we're winning and he's playing well and he's putting up numbers. Then, he's putting in the work he deserves to play. He should play every game. That's the kind of person I am. I think at school, it was just what I thought and what the coach thought weren't exactly the same thing. And there were situations where there were games I should have played that I didn't, and I didn't say anything about it. And it wasn't from a team perspective. It was from a self perspective. I shouldn't have come to him as a hockey. It wasn't about hockey. It was about being an adult and learning things. And I think the biggest thing I took away is you might not like what you hear, but you need to say your truth. Like I should have gone to him and spoke my mind, not hockey player to hockey coach, but man to man. And I didn't. And when I finally did my senior year, things got much clearer for me and pushed me to want to play pro hockey, but it was also too little too late. Like I was already a senior. We were playing during a COVID year. We only played 7 or 8 games that year, and we were already 3 games into the season. So I kind of shot myself in the foot there, but I learned that you can't sit back. And I would never advocate to go to complain to your coach. Like, no, I don't want anybody that listens to this take it the wrong way. Go to complain to your coach because Johnny played on Saturday and you don't think he played well. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's opportunities in life, especially when you're older, playing juniors or college hockey, where you need to go to your coach man to man. And a good coach will always have his door open and say, hey, like, what's up? And you say, I'm not coming to you as a player. I'm coming to you as a man, man to man or woman to woman or man to, whatever the situation is, and saying, hey, listen, like, what's the situation? Just be frank with me. We might not like what each other has to say, but it's better that we talk about it now and put it in the open. So you know what I'm thinking and I know what you're thinking, and we can both be on the same page, and I can get better from what you see and you can get better from what I see. And I think had I done that earlier, it might've been better for my college hockey career. But even just learning that, I think it's helped me a lot. Even this year, just talking to coaches like, hey, what do you see in the game? Like, okay, I know we won, but like, what about that goal? Why? Okay, you didn't like it. Why didn't you like it? Oh, but you think I should make it? Okay, well, this is what I saw. That's what you saw. Okay, how do we make it so we both see the same thing? So next time that goal doesn't go in. So I think it's a helpful thing, but you have to know when to speak your mind and when to be quiet, and you have to know when it's time to advocate for yourself over the team, but do it in a respectful way where you're not going to make it sound like you're complaining.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that, by doing that, like it helps you mature as well, and like just like get that more maturity and like know how to talk to other people, especially like when things aren't like going your way and like you just want to talk like you said, like just own everything you can, just be able to just be or learn from these experiences and become more mature for yourself and for like when you have to have those tough conversations in the future.
Yeah, I definitely I know I mean, not that it's relevant to this. I know the exact moment where I stood up to him, and I think some of the boys heard. I not necessarily that they should have, and that wasn't my intent. But I came in and they kind of like looked at me and then smiled, and you're like, okay, like I think I did the right thing, and I just think, I learned that it was better in that situation. I should have advocated for myself, but I've always been a guy that's a team first guy. I always am more concerned about the other 19, 20 guys on my team, how my goalie partner's doing. Does he need anything? How the guys on my team are doing? Do they need anything? Like what I can do if I'm not playing to support the guys on the bench. For me, it's like little things like, okay, who goes on what line? What guys comes off? What guy jumps? What guy uses the door? Like you learn those things, not because they make me any better at hockey, but just because I feel like they make me a better teammate. I know this guy sits here and he wants his water bottle there, or he comes over to the bench for the TV timeout. He wants a towel. He doesn't want a towel. He likes water. He doesn't like water. You just learn those things. And I think sometimes though, you're still a person and you need to advocate for yourself and do it in a respectful way. And you're going to overcome adversity, and you're going to be in situations where I didn't want to talk to my coach, but I knew that it had boiled over and it had come to a point where we needed to sit down. And I think the things were said in that meeting that, I mean, I hope he looks back and he says, well, I could have done this or I could have done that. But I also look back and say the same thing. There were situations where I could have done this. I could have done that. I could have advocated for myself a little better and I didn't, but you live and you learn, and hindsight is 20/20. So I think all of those things, I wouldn't change anything because all of those things make me the goalie, the athlete, the person that I am today. So even the fact that I had to overcome that is so important to me, because now I know that if I have to do it again, I know how to approach a subject. I know how to talk to, somebody who's in a position of authority in a respectful way, in a sit down manner, outside of the view of the team. There's definitely an art to how to do it. And I probably would advocate to my kids or to other goalies that I coach, like, you want to do it, you don't want your parents to do it. Like, you want to be the guy that says to my coach, hey, and I think there's probably around junior hockey is when it starts, when your parents aren't involved. But if you have something to say to your coach, you want to be the guy or girl that's saying it to your coach. It's just delivered better. But you also have to know that you're not all the time you're going to like what they're saying. So you just have to internalize it and know that, there's times my coaches have said, hey, I don't like the way that you're handling rebounds, and I don't, or catching the puck, and you don't agree with it. Well, I catch every puck, but that's what they see. And they might've looked over in practice and seen it once, that you bobbled a puck, or that you gave up a bad rebound on the 2-on-1 drill, but that's what they saw. That's the frame of practice that they saw. So you have to say, okay, I need to be better on this. I need to put aside that I think I did a good job. And you just, okay, I'm not going to miss any rebounds. Like, I know for me, it was movement. And I don't know if it was because I wasn't a coach, so I don't know when he was looking practically. Your movement doesn't look fluid. Yeah. So that's all I thought, fluid. I just want to look fluid. And that's the biggest thing. That's where I came up with movement matters and working out in the gym and all of those things, because I knew I was like, I just need to move better.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you there. But to wrap things up here, for my last question, like, what's been your favorite barn to play in over the course of your pro career so far?
I think, I love playing. Like, I think my favorite barn to play in is obviously Watertown. Like, we have the best fans, and it's a home. And I think it's one of those things that starts the locker room and breathes out. Like, the fans know you, they know who you are. When they walk around, they say hi. They come out to the jersey auctions. They're there. I think our fans show up sometimes earlier than us. Like, they're there for the public skate before, decked out in their Wolves stuff. You look in the stands and their stuff's already laid out at 4:30 in the afternoon for a 7:00 game. And you're like, wow, like they're probably the most dedicated fan group that I've met. And I love playing here. I think it was, and this is definitely my favorite place to play. I think it was really cool to play in Peoria. It's just such a historic rink, and a lot of guys have played and come up there, especially goalie wise, through the organizations that were there. That was pretty cool. But I think it's great to play. I mean, it's great to play here. No place gets rocking like Watertown, and the fans go the extra mile, the players go the extra mile, and you can't beat that for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. But Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck with the rest of the season and the rest of your career.
Thank you. You too. It was a pleasure to be on today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.